Everybody played by the rules, except tonight, when the rug was pulled out from under us. Absolutely inexcusable, absolutely indefensible. We have a moral obligation to hold this vote. The people who are out of their homes, the people who are cold, the people who are without food, the people who have lost their jobs, they don't have the time to wait. We cannot just walk away from our responsibilities.
Hear, hear. That was an incredulous Representative Peter King, Long Island's own here, Republican, losing it, rightfully so, on January 1st of this year. He was going after fellow House Republicans after party leaders pulled a Hurricane Sandy relief bill from a floor vote. Remember that? He then went on TV condemning lawmakers for using New York, as he said, as an ATM.
These Republicans have no problem finding New York when they're out raising millions of dollars. They're in New York all the time, filling their pockets with money from New Yorkers. I'm saying right now, anyone from New York and New Jersey who contributes 1 penny to congressional Republicans is out of their minds, because what they did last time was put a knife in the back of New Yorkers and New Jerseyans. It was an absolute disgrace.
And by the way, in Dominic's interview yesterday and the day before with Joe Lota, Republican mayoral hopeful, he said the same thing. Guys who didn't come through for New York, Republicans, they should not be coming knocking on the door trying to collect money in New York as well. We heard it after 9/11, if you remember that, when there was fights over funding to help New York get back on its feet and some of the lawmakers wouldn't come through. This is not new here. For some reason, New York gets shortchanged by a lot of lawmakers in our biggest times of need. Okay, let's fast forward to today, though. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican senator from Texas, he will be the headliner at the New York State GOP annual dinner next month. This is the same guy who voted against Sandy aid as one of his first acts as a U.S. senator. Now, the state GOP, with our good friend Ed Cox, has reacted with the following statement, quote, "We are thrilled that Senator Cruz has accepted our invitation to join us at our state dinner, as the invitation clearly states. The senator is not asking for any funds or donations, and as such is not being compensated for his appearance. At this time, no arrangements have been made to reimburse any of the expenses." Okay, favorite subject for Jessica. Listen, I know the guy is a rock star for the Tea Party set, but not once, twice this guy, in the original bill and then the cleaned up version, said no to New York to get money in Sandy aid. What is the state party doing? Throwing this guy and putting him at the top of the dais saying, speak to New York Republicans.
Well, he's going to help sell tickets. People can come and yell at him if they want. That's the beauty of
There's got to be a line, though.
What's the line? I mean, he voted against a bill. Our own two senators vote against New York's interests all the time, whether it's Obamacare, the Dodd-Frank bill. I mean, come on. If people are going to go, if they want
I mean this is a compliment, Jessica. If I ever get in trouble, I'm calling you, because you can spin better than anybody. Am I right, Dominic?
Yes,
but
she's very good.
Give me a freaking break.
Nobody can see, but her pants are on fire
Yes,
under the
yes,
table.
yes.
He's not making any money. No one's donating directly to him.
He shouldn't have been invited. He should be condemned at the table.
I want to know who's going. Who's paying to go? Who are the Republicans? Because New York Republicans are as different from crazy Ted Cruz as a Queen of England from Kesha. Like it's like who the heck is going to this thing?
He's a rising star in the party. He's a very effective legislator. I don't agree with his votes on Sandy. I've said that many times
But shouldn't
publicly.
actions have consequences?
Of course, and he will have to deal with that in his own district, but that doesn't prevent him.
Why is he invited to ours? And by the way, you know this better than I do. You go up and down the Long Island coastline. Those are the Republican hubs when it comes to southern New York. They're not, collecting money on the east and west side here, all right? It's on the Long Island areas where they at least, that is the strong territory. So where they were hit the hardest and where Peter King was speaking to his constituents, right? Why isn't Peter King right that they better not come knocking on the door
to raise money? And that's not what he's doing. He's not coming here to raise money. No one's donating to him. That money goes to helping elect more Republicans in New York State, which, by the way, would give us a stronger voice in Washington.
Come on.
Everybody raises money for everything in New York.
Yes.
If you're running for president, all of the New York money that's Republican is going to be in that room. That is why Ted Cruz is there. The question is, why did we let him come in? That's the question. And who are these donors that are okay with this?
You know what? this is not a good one. And I'm going to ask Peter King about this one because this one stinks. Joe Lhota, Dominic, he made it sink. Not segues me to mayor here, okay? Let's do a little stock watch here, and I'll start with you, Dominic.
Okay. Who's
up and who's down? You basically interviewed every single person. About the only person left you haven't talked to is Christine Quinn. I know you guys are working on that. I don't think Anthony Weiner is very. I wish the interview went as it did with you, but that said, who's up and down in this thing?
Well, believe it or not, Joe Lhota, his stock is up. I've interviewed over the years quite a few candidates that have gone on to become mayor. And the only question that I had about Lhota, I didn't know, and I said this, Jessica was in the room, and I said this to his face. I never reveal a private conversation, but I will reveal this part. I said, Joe, I didn't know if you had the personality to be mayor of New York. But after this interview, I really feel that he has it. Plus the personality. Plus, Casamatides had a very bad start of the week. It was played out in the papers where he went bananas in front of the cameras. Mr. Casamatides, I know you have a lot of money, but you can't blow it because people have cameras and you know, you can't do that and you can't swear if you want to be mayor.
And I'm not convinced he's really
the one that had a very bad week and she continues to have a bad week is Christine Quinn. Christine Quinn, I'm sorry, but Mr. Weiner is taking all of the energy out of the mayor's race. Folks are not focusing on you anymore, Christine. You are yesterday's story, and for right now, it's Weiner. Plus, they're already, that bullseye on her back, they're effective, the other candidates. Her poll numbers are going down. It's not looking good for her.
It seems to be a community approach here from Democrats in this. How about you, Evan? Who do you think's having a good and a bad week?
Never happens, but I disagree with Dominic. I think it's good for Christine Quinn that this is happening. Anthony Weiner is sucking all the oxygen out of the race, and that means that her opponents, who are way behind in name recognition and everything, are going to have less opportunity, a smaller news hole to actually go after her, make a name for themselves, get some traction. This is great for her. She always knew those numbers were weak. It was based on just people knowing who she was in the gay marriage fight and all those things she deserves credit for. But now she deals with you know, a couple of hits that she knew she was going to get anyway that haven't gotten new, by the way. These are old hits.
Evan, every
and
time
she
the mayor
soldiers
has
on.
a bad press day, isn't there like a trickle down to Christine Quinn since she's seen as riding
I know that her
shotgun
opponents
with
are trying to do that, and I think they should, because that's the only way they're going to climb into this thing. But I don't think so. I mean, I think that, you know, we're going to read those stories constantly for the next few months about how involved she is in decision making in City Hall, and that cuts both ways. That's a good thing. It's a bad thing.
I know you pointed down arrows for both Mr. Lieu and de Blasio.
Yeah.
Does their support go to Weiner or does it go to her?
Neither. I think it goes to undecided, frankly. You know, I think, look, Lieu is obviously having a bad week. He's prosecutors.
He's had a few months, yeah.
Yes. Although he was doing fairly well, I think, there for a little while, but now it's bad news for him again. De Blasio is maybe the biggest sufferer of the Weiner effect, right? Like, it takes the oxygen out. He can't attack. He didn't get the base of support so far from the labor community that he had depended on. So he doesn't have a vehicle for getting his hits out the way that other people do. And that means if they're doing a Weiner story, you're not doing a de Blasio story.
No, you're right.
Well, I disagree, and of course I would have chose Joe Lhota because I'm working with him, but I'm trying to, you know, play fair. So I focused on the Democratic side of the aisle, and I think it's crazy to think that Quinn is having a good week and her stock is up right now because she's been on defense this entire time. De Blasio has actually made a lot of pointed remarks, direct attacks at her. And, you know, she's not only taking heat from the left, but you saw Mayor Bloomberg come out yesterday and rip the candidates that are supporting an inspector general for the police department and the racial profiling bill. So she's getting it from all sides right now.
Doesn't that help a little bit for her?
No,
if the
because
mayor and her have daylight.
It's coming from every direction, and I don't think she's been able to effectively drive the message that she's wanted to, and it leaves room for the others to come in. So the race is incredibly fluid right now.
Barring some big surprise.
Agreed.
Who would be? I mean, in every head-to-head, he trails, and I think that's no secret with the registration in New York. Well, who would be the toughest to beat, Quinn or Weiner?
Oh, Quinn out of those two, but I actually think Bill Thompson probably would be a more formidable candidate than either of those two.
Interesting. Okay. Finally, guys, I can't make this up. They pat each other down. They joke about frisking each other. And I'm not even talking about stop and frisk. We're talking about the folks up in Albany. In light of the recent spate of corruption arrests, dark humor has begun to set in the Capitol. Many of you saw the Times piece that detailed this. Now, the new joke on Capitol Hill is lawmakers literally frisk one another for wires. Ha ha. I want to ask, though, Evan, how bad in private conversations has this thing gotten here? Has it reached a tipping point where they're just tired of this? I mean, who wants to go back home to the districts and you're just assumed to be a crook if you're in the Assembly or the State Senate?
Lawmakers are tired? Yeah, no, I think that they are. Look, I know it's not popular to say, but the vast majority of lawmakers are good people. They do a job that, when you do it right, is hard to do and doesn't make you much money. You're shuttling back and forth between Albany and wherever you live. It's not easy, and you get tarred with the same brush as terrible politicians that get caught making bribes.
Let's say the following offer, and Jeannie Zano, who was here, wrote an op-ed piece on this, but I'll put a number to it. Let's say I raised their salary 30%, but they couldn't have a second job.
I agree with you.
Do you think these guys would still run?
Oh, some of them? Some of them wouldn't be able to run because more serious people would be running and they wouldn't have a shot. But no, this has to be part of the solution. And this goes against everything you would think, right? But spending more on our lawmakers to give them a real salary will attract the kind of talent that we need. I mean, look, if you're going to on a partner track at a law firm,
why would
you give that up
to
make $70,000 a year? Yeah, no,
I mean,
it doesn't make sense. So yes, it actually has to be part of it. The good part about that is that that's also going to be the sweetener for the governor to get this through the Assembly, because they're really not going to want to put more restrictions on themselves. And I think it's the only way to do it.
More. Dom, when you talk to these guys, do some shrug it off and say, hey, this is just business as usual, they've always accused us as crooks? Or do some say, I just don't need this anymore in my life?
Well, I haven't talked to anybody in the last 24 hours, but the one thing that bothers me is that when you talk to these guys off the record, and ladies, they come in figuring out how to push the letter of the law. So they set up these nonprofits where Cousin Joe is running it and buys a property, and then you pay rent to Cousin Joe, and all of these Lulus and all of these things. It's, Richard.
But wait, I'm asking you, Dominic, is that once they get to Albany, they see how the game's played, or before they even get there?
I'm sorry, I agree that most, their heart is in the right. They're crooks. I really contend that if you go up on their salary, it's not going to make a difference. A crook is a crook. A crook is a crook. They just learn how to steal. You can bump their salary 100%. They're still going to do what they're doing.
But my whole thing is, if they don't have a second job, right, then whatever we think of people in the House and the Senate in Washington, we don't hear about them having these same inherent conflicts of interest. Yes, there's donors. Yes, there's PAC. I get all that. But it's not so brutally transparent like it is in Albany.
Right. I mean, New York is sort of a different animal when it comes to this, and I think we always have been. Washington has incredibly strict ethics rules, which have been, somewhat effective. But I think, the conversation right now is people are scared. I feel like people assume every conversation they're having could be tapped because what's happened, and if you look at the latest scandal involving the mayoral race and Malcolm Smith, all of these little other investigations are being sprung off of, the feds could be focused on one thing and then they find out some other illegal activity
and not exactly
that had
people that you think are going to bring the secrets to their grave. They'll flip on their mother if they have to get a better deal.
So I don't think this is, going anywhere, but it's got to be a comprehensive thing, and I don't think public financing is the right solution, and I don't think pay raises are either.
All right. We take a quick break. When we come back, though, you want to debate the morning after pill for kids. Plan B now available over the counter for anybody over the age of 15. I want you to think at home here, your daughter, of course, are you comfortable with that? We're going to get into that. Stay with us.